that's my reaction, people. This is one of the, I don't even have words to describe it. It's one of the most unique yet strangest films I have ever seen. And I've seen some weird stuff in my time. Boyhood, it was filmed over 12 years using the same, certain actors. I think it was there's like five or six main actors that, they used for, over the 12 years. Which I think is really fascinating. It starts off with this kid named Mason Jr. His mom is a single parent, clearly at a young age. He has his sister Samantha, and it's just his life as a kid until he becomes a teenager, like 18. It's kind of neat seeing him grow up and all the shit that goes through his life. There's some really dramatic shit that happens in his life. His mom gets remarried a couple times to these drunkards, to these heavy drinkers, and she just leaves them all because they're abusive and all. So, I think my favorite bit about the film is Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke's his biological father, Mason and Samantha's biological dad, and he's just so full of energy. He's a bit of a kooky character. Why they got divorced, it's not really explained too much, but I'm kind of glad we don't. So the entire film just follows Mason, and really that's it. The film it throws out all film narrative, all basic film narrative, and really it becomes more of an observation more than a film. It just starts and finishes. It could have finished at any time it wanted to, and I would have been satisfied. That being said, this film's 2 hours 40 minutes. I think a good 20, maybe 30 minutes could have been edited out. There are a lot of scenes that I think are trying to go somewhere but don't. There's all these bits in his life where I keep thinking, is he going to get hurt? Is something going to, smash in his face? One drunken father, throws a glass at his plate and whatever. He's in, I think grade 9 or something, and he's just in the washroom just fixing his hair, and two kids just come up to him going hey, fuck you, faggot, stuff like that, and I was like, oh, is he going to get bullied through school? Nope, just immediately dropped. No, the drunken father thing, no, that was, that can stay in there. But there's other things him and his friends go to this under construction house. They're throwing, saw blades at a wall or whatever. And I was like, is someone going to hurt themselves? Nope, none of that. Or just other things. I don't know if because it's filmed over 12 years it makes it feel dated or not, but I don't know, because when he became a teenager, 16, 17 or whatever, it stopped feeling dated. They stopped mentioning stuff dated stuff oh, he's playing on the Wii, he's playing on a this thing. He's supporting Obama. There's some great funny bits with them. When between his dad likes Obama, so but Mason himself I don't think is the most interesting of characters. It's neat to see everything he goes through, but he never really talks about any of the traumas of his life. He doesn't talk about his drunken dads. He doesn't talk about, I guess, getting bullied for 10 seconds in high school, or I don't know, his other stuff. Eventually he meets this one girl, I think her name's Sheena, and it's a weird relationship, I guess. Apparently, I've looked into this film quite a bit. It wasn't written all at once, because there's plenty of other references they make to things that were, I guess, current at the time. So obviously, it couldn't be written at once. But yeah, I think Ethan Hawke steals the show. Ethan Hawke's just an amazing actor, and he gives the movie a lot more light, I guess. I mean, this film is getting critically acclaimed across the board. I can see why. For me, I think it's good. I mean, would I ever watch it again? I don't know, maybe in the future, and I'll realize the cinematic genius of Boyhood. Um, but there's plenty good to say. Uh, you know, the characters are good. It's neat seeing the few people that the film centers on, seeing them grow up. Really, like even the adults, like seeing Ethan Hawke, get older, and he has a weird mustache by the end of the film. Seeing his mom is interesting. Though there's one bit at the end, like her final scene at the end, I was just like, oh, that's really grim. She's talking about like Mason's about to go up to college. Spoilers. Mason's about to go up to college, and she just realized it just hit her like Mason was all she really had left, and she realized, you know what comes next? My fucking funeral. And he's just like, you're thinking about 40 years ahead, I do believe. I don't know. There were bits that were just kind of like depressing, yet like tense. It was like build up with no payoff sometimes. Now, I guess that's because it's more of an observation and less of a film, so I guess, it's trying to be like, artsy and stuff, but like there's none of that like minimalist stuff, which I think I was like, thank God. It's also told in order, which is also very nice. But yeah, like the length is a bit like, I don't really criticize a film for length unless it's Transformers. But yeah, 2 hours 40 minutes is just, I think, a bit too long, especially for me. Like I was nodding off at times, and like I said, this is one of those films that can just end whenever it wants, and I think it would be satisfied. I mean, I'm glad it ends with him going to college and meeting some friends. But there's just a lot of things I was like, well, I'm curious, like what happened to those people? Like sort of unanswered questions. This first this first man that the second man that his mom marries, like he's like a college professor. He's like a big drinker, but he sort of hides that from his mother, from his wife. He has 2 kids as well. I'm like, well, what happened to those kids? I mean, like what happened to those kids? Or what happened to the second guy she marries? He was a guy from Iraq, and like he's also a drinker. Like Jesus, like everyone's drinking in this film. Is this supposed to say like alcohol causes problems? Because Mason drinks quite a bit, but nothing ever seems to happen to him. But I don't know. Still, I'm glad I watched it, and I guess it's like one of those films where I can understand the hype, but I just don't believe in the hype. Like, I think it's good. I don't think it's like the greatest thing since sliced cake, is what every other critic is saying. I mean, going on what I was saying about Mason, he's not the most interesting of character. I would have liked to have seen him reflect on these things. Like he's an artist. Like, he takes photography. He makes paintings. I would have loved to have seen, like, some of his, the traumas of his, when he was a kid, like, reflected in his art. That would have been interesting. It also looks like they must have changed actors at one point, because, like, the beginning, he's, like, just pale white skin and that, and, like, by the end of the film, he looks Latino or something. I don't know. Well, it's from Texas. But Ethan Hawke, I think, was a much more interesting character, for me at least, because, like, at one point he just fixes himself up, he finds himself a nice woman, gets married, has a kid, and starts fixing things up. Oh yeah, another scene I think that could have been edited out. Apparently, Ethan Hawke drives this, like, I don't know what kind of car it is, but it's this crazy black thing. It's like a sports car or something, like a 1970s sports car or whatever. And apparently he said to Mason, when you're 16, you'll get the car. And when Mason learns that he sold it when Mason was 15, he's just like, I'm pouting. There's just like, it was like, what? Is it the death in the family? Like, I needed money, man. He sold it for like $22,000 or something. But that's all I really have to say. So yeah, Mason is the most interesting of characters. Like he's quiet. He's just a very artsy kid. Like he's just trying to find his place in the world and makes a lot of friends and experiments with drugs, women. But I think it's a good film. I guess I just don't think I'll ever watch it again. As it stands, I'm gonna be nice and give this a 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's something I'm glad I watched, but I don't think it's the greatest thing ever made. And just a quick side rant. This is what I don't like about film criticism these days. It's like every film that's, great, quote unquote great, it's like it has to be hoisted up on a hook saying, like, this is great, and for all those who disagree, you can die. Stuff like that, that just, like, kind of pisses me off, really. It's just like, oh, God. And what happens when someone disagrees with it? Like, I'm trying to think of another film. Like, there's, like, plenty, well, not class, there's a couple classic films that, are highly praised that I don't like. And of, recent times at least. That's all I have to say, I guess. So, see you later.